Welcome back to Godless Reads, the Chilling Tales for Dark Night show, where godless authors read their own horror stories. I'm your unwaveringly annoying host, Drew Stepek. I'm the owner of Godless.com and the Godless app, and I'm a horror author. I'm going to enforce this again. This isn't PG-13 horror, and it's not mainstream horror. This is disturbing, surreal, twisted, grotesque, shit-choking, hardcore, and fucked up as fuck. On this week's episode, the Butcher of Cornwall, Jonathan Butcher reads his own story, Chocolateman. Chocolateman is about a feces-eating demon named Kreb, and it's really disturbing. The Chocolateman short story you're about to hear inspired Butcher to write a full novel based on this urban legend tale. It's out now everywhere from Evil Cookie Publishing. If you haven't read anything by Butch yet, today is really your lucky day. This is a treat, no pun intended. So kick back, grab your drug of choice, and let Jonathan Butcher take you into his urban legendary mythos in Chocolateman.
The Chocolateman. Written and read by Jonathan Butcher.
That's good chocolate.
Slurs the rural-sounding voice from the next toilet cubicle.
That's bloody lovely, that is.
Quite how anyone can enjoy a candy bar amidst the near-nuclear pong of my morning bowel movement is unimaginable, but the relish in that countryside accent is unmistakable.
Kreb likes that, he does.
The voice slobbers, and there's a smack of lips. A thought occurs to me, but it's so revolting that I blot it from my mind. That fourth fajita last night was a mistake. I tense, and another thick plop echoes through the railway station bathroom.
Nice one, pal!
That Cornish, or maybe Somerset brogue, blurts,
Give us a bloody welling!
Oh, God. There's no one else in here, so he's talking to me. A gentle splash comes from the other cubicle, like the sound of someone fishing for a sunken spoon in a washing-up bowl, followed by a delighted slurp. The voice comes again.
Make sure you don't let any of that chocolate go to waste. That's mine when you're done with it.
This particular interruption halts my backside's evacuations, so I hastily wipe myself clean, flush, yank up my slacks, and pick up my little grey briefcase. My stomach clenches as that vision squirms back into my head, and although I'm annoyed at myself, my hands fumble with the door like arthritic fingers rolling a cigarette. I have an urge to dodge straight out into the station without washing my hands, but I'm being ridiculous. Plus, I'm pretty sure that my knuckles brushed a stubborn dangleberry while I was wiping. I rush to the sink at the opposite wall, but before I can get the water running, I notice what the cracked mirror above the taps is reflecting. Behind me, the dashing chap with the ruler-straight hair and the M&S suit and tie, the door to the other stall is open. Through that entranceway, a man is down on his knees and leaning over the bowl like a vomiting drunk. But instead of something exiting his mouth, he is putting something into it. At first, he remains facing away from me, his hair short but wild, standing up erratically like that of a Hollywood mad scientist. While his stained white t-shirt appears quite banal, he has something black wrapped around his throat. And with his back still to me, he says, in a gloopy, stuffed-mouth voice,
You shouldn't have flushed. I asked you not to.
Having never encountered such a grotesque sight, my legs refuse to move.
I could tell that your choc would have been the best. I can smell it. Would have been top banana. The bees pooing knees.
He turns his head to me, and I wish that I could convince myself that what is slathered across his gormless face truly is chocolate. However, surely no chocolate in the world contains sweet corn kernels. He grins, his buck teeth smeared brown and his eyes rolling moronically. Then he grasps the end of the studded belt that's wrapped around his neck, holds it towards me and says,
Pull this, would you? It helps the chocolate go down.
I stagger towards the exit, nauseated to the point of horror.
Kreb's the name called 1, 2, 3.
His voice slithers as I escape.
Take a dump, and there I'll be.
I pace through the breezy expanse of the railway station with my briefcase swinging at my side, turning back frequently to ensure that the feculent fellow isn't in pursuit. The last thing I need when I have an appointment to keep is to be tailed by some ghastly, dirty freak. I check my watch and nip into Boots for some wet wipes, and then make a swift beeline for platform 3. Throughout the train journey, I work my way through the pack of 100 wet wipes and watch the trees hurry by, trying to distract myself from thoughts of that unhygienic so-and-so. It's a short journey to Speckley Station, and when I depart from the busy carriage, I have to hold my breath against the wet mist of body odour throbbing from my fellow passengers. Filthy primates, the lot of them. Haven't they heard of deodorant? Through the humid streets I stroll, shaking off the last of the fecophilic encounter by considering my upcoming appointment. By the time I reach my destination, I have so successfully moved on to other thoughts that my stomach begins to rumble. So, at a nearby cafe, I devour a piquant balsamic ham ciabatta and leave the premises satisfied. Across the street is a hotel that was once an old theatre, since converted into a nest of 5-star, spotlessly clean luxury. It's my meeting place of choice, and David, the kindly manager, will no doubt have already granted my guests access to my room. At least they should be scrubbed clean and sweet-smelling by the time I arrive. I smile a hello to the quiffed reception worker, who, as I'd expected, is immaculately presented. He nods back at me and hands me my room card without a word, retracting his arm swiftly as if he doesn't wish to prolong our interaction. Considering the amount I'm paying David, I really should have this impudent brute fired. When I reach my room door, I take a moment to prepare myself, straightening my tie and smoothing down the disobedient patch of hair at my crown that always prefers to stand bolt upright. Then I exhale, long and slow, and open the door to the sound of splashing water and laughter. "Good afternoon, children," I blare, swiftly slamming the door behind me. The merriment and splish-sploshing cease. "Hello," comes a flimsy female voice. "Come and join us, the water's fine," a male voice quips through the open door to the bathroom. I almost snigger, as if I'd ever soak in a hot tub with a pair of street rats. Considering how unhygienic that would be, I may as well have dined with the poop eater. "Sounds divine," I call, laying my briefcase down onto the luxuriously plush queen size. After flipping it open, I remove a bottle marked Chateau de Resla dessert wine. My, what a day we have ahead of us. The dresser is clear, so those two urchins must have collected their payment already and stashed it in a pocket somewhere, or perhaps into an overused orifice. After taking 2 tumblers from an antique drinks cabinet, I step into the bathroom, where I'm blessed with the sight of my 2 young adult guests submerged in an undergrowth of white bubbles. "I hope you 2 remember to scrub behind your ears," I tell them cheerfully, deadly serious despite my light-hearted tone. "Of course," replies the smiling girl, who must be around 20 and whose web page calls her Cherry. Her unremarkable brown hair is tied in a bun on top of her head, and her whorish mascara has formed 2 smudged trails down her cheeks. There's not a spot of dirt on us. "You can check if you like," the young man, who is of a similar age and calls himself Stallion Boy, tells me. He rises from the white foam and offers me a glimpse of abs, as well as the dangling organ of his trade. "That won't be necessary," I reply. There are some sorts of filth that just can't be washed away by soap. "Here, take these," I hand them a glass each. As the clueless pair sip from their tainted chalices, purring their approval, I drag a chair from the bedchamber into the marble-lined bathroom. I seat myself, crossing my legs, the audience of an improvised performance by 2 nameless nobodies. "So, Cherry and Stallion Boy." I pause briefly at the crudeness of their names. Lovely titles you each have. Now, you understand that I'm not the least bit interested in coitus, yes? They look at each other from their bubbly dens, appearing simultaneously mystified and oddly excited. They nod. "I merely desire the pleasure of your company." Stallion Boy says, "So we're just going to hang out, nothing else?" "That's correct, and within 12 hours you shall both be as clean as proverbial whistles." "I'm not sure I could get any soapier than this," smiles Cherry. "I'm spotless, outside and in," she adds with a wink. "Quite," I agree, without commitment. "But I don't only mean your flesh and form, I mean your moral hygiene." A flicker of understanding crosses Stallion Boy's face. "Religious, huh? Something like that." Well, if you want me to be your altar boy, you can be my priest. Yes, yes, Cherry giggles, clapping her hands so that foam shoots down onto the tiles. And I can be your nun, who keeps wanking about Christ on the cross, and I need to be punished, yes? Of that you can be sure, I agree. Let me elaborate. I stand once again and return to my briefcase, surveying the 7 bottles within, each with the label of an exquisite beverage. I take my time before selecting one marked Port, vintage 2004. Back in the bathroom, the children are playing once again, chuckling like playground chums in the rain. They stop as I return. I place the bottle on the edge of the tub. Forgive me, I tell them, and go to the convenience at the far side of the bathroom to urinate. Gads. Someone has failed to flush their brown offspring. The sight of this stray log brings to mind that blasted man at the station, and I can't help but gag, my gorge rising violently. Repulsive, despicable, grimy, wretched. What's wrong? Stallion Boy asks, and bless him, he truly sounds concerned for my well-being. I begin, preparing to dismiss the problem, but the sight of that crap-guzzling cretin wafts into my mind again. Perhaps what's needed is an exorcism rather than a denial. After all, a stain is never removed by simply imagining its absence. Earlier today, I had an encounter with an unusual chap. The pair in the bath exchange an amused glance, as if these foul urchins cannot imagine a stranger fellow than myself. For a moment, I consider switching the bottle of port for the ever more severe, medium-dry sherry, but then Stallion Boy's face turns sympathetic. Go on, he prompts. What was weird about him? He was in the bathroom at my home train station and he was consuming excrement straight from the toilet bowl. Stallion Boy grimaces, but Cherry smirks. Now there's a guy who can call me any time. I glance at her, revolted. What? She asks. Scat freaks don't want touching usually, they don't want comforting. All they want is for me to do something I would have to do anyway, but, you know, all over them. Ugh, I can't stomach it, Stallion Boy says. I'm the same, it's just not something that I can comprehend. So, people will pay you to relieve yourself over them? She nods with enthusiasm. Yup, easy peasy. Easy poosy, more like. Stallion Boy grins and they giggle. But this man, I say, what did he call himself? Creb or something. Anyway, there was something terribly off about him. I'm getting away from my task, but I can't dissipate the image of his face with its jutting teeth and dirt-clogged smile. I actually shiver. Did you speak to him? Cherry wants to know. Barely. He didn't want me to flush and said my waist smelled divine. The odious little grub called it chocolate. That's a nice compliment, Cherry says, and I can't tell if she's joking. Delightful, I mock. Definitely one for the CV. Stallion Boy's face is pale. Are you sure that was his name? Something like that, yes. Could have been Crab, I suppose. But I think it was... Stop saying his name. Stallion Boy raises himself from the tub, a soapy, dripping Adonis. I think I might be done here. I step towards him. Whatever do you mean? I'm paying good money for your time, and I know, he says, bubbles cloaking his body like clumps of white hair. It's silly, but I'm superstitious, and look, stop right there. I snap as he goes to leave the tub. Then, calmer. Please, just explain to me what the matter is, and afterwards, if I can't convince you otherwise, then you can go. He pauses, looking momentarily torn, and then hesitantly returns to the bubbles. It's silly, I told you. I try to rid the stern edge from my tone as I ask, what is silly? Stallion Boy bites his lip. The Chocolateman. I stay silent, waiting for him to get it off his chest. He sinks deeper into the tub so that everything below his chin is under the foam. My father was a water treatment worker. He used to add chemicals to the water at the plant, take readings, carry out repairs, that sort of thing. And sometimes, when he had to work a night shift, there was a story they'd tell each other. About the Chocolateman. Who's that? Cherry asks, her eyes wide. He's sort of like a man, sort of a ghost, sort of a demon. A spook story? You're right, it's preposterous, I tell him, sitting down and drumming my fingers on my thigh. Some of them said they'd seen him, hiding in a toilet stool or peeking out from a sewer grate, or, once, swimming in the sludge processing tank. I shrug. Okay. Stallion Boy raises his eyebrows. The workers said he looked like a man, but he wasn't. They used to say that he lived in the sewers and the pipes and the public toilets. Where did he come from? Cherry asks, apparently enthralled. No one knew. Some claimed he was an evil spirit that could only keep itself alive by eating dirt. That's creepy, Cherry says. That's nonsense and revolting, I counter. Others said he was the ghost of a fecophiliac searching for his lost lover who had vanished one day. They said that the Chocolateman followed his partner's trail by the scent and taste of his shit, waiting for the day he had the lead around his neck pulled again. They said that the only way he could be kept at bay was by leaving their toilets unflushed, so that the Chocolateman could enjoy their... My patience is fading and I spit. Get to the point. There was a rhyme that some of them said the Chocolateman had whispered to them through the pipes. I'm the man who eats your food after you've digested it. Please stop, Cherry whispers. My aim is never to be rude, just to eat your rich chocolate. Please, I don't like it, Cherry says. I'm the Chocolateman, you know. I take my time, but I'm never slow. That's quite enough, I tell him. But Stallion Boy finishes, Krebs the name, called 1, 2, 3. Take a dump, and there I'll be. I admit that these final words make me stop, but only for a moment. He must have heard the story, the wretched oik. Stallion Boy focuses on me. What do you mean? Well, that's just what he said to me, the final couplet of that rhyme. Stallion Boy rises again, faster and more determined than before. Well, that's it. I'm leaving. I'm sorry. I know it's stupid, but you can have your money back, of course, all of it, but I just can't be here. It's not worth the risk. What do you mean? Even if he was real, why would you be afraid of a ghost who eats people's droppings? Because one day, at the water treatment plant, one of my dad's friends was found ripped apart, from ass to ribcage. It was the Chocolateman. I scoff. How exactly do you know that a ghost was responsible? Because his name was smeared in brown across the wall. He stares at me and then says, I'm leaving. As he wades to the edge of the tub, I grab the bottle from the tiles and swing it up into his chin. It clunks hollowly, and the bottle remains intact, but Stallion Boy sails backwards, accompanied by a squeal from Little Cherry. Stallion Boy's spine folds back over the rim of the tub, and soap bubbles surge upwards. An airy oof escapes him, and he slips down until the whole body is submerged beneath the water. I fold my arms, waiting for him to rematerialise. Cherry's lips are pulled back from her teeth, and her eyebrows drawn high on her face. Stallion Boy's head bursts from the suds, gasping, and when his eyes stop twirling, they gaze warily my way. I had hoped we could keep things civil for the time being, I tell them, ready to swing again if either gives me reason to. How on earth are we going to get you both clean if you resist the good I'm doing for you? They're both silent. You're staring at me now as if I'm one of those Johns you've been warned about, the shadowy stranger who preys on escorts and streetwalkers for kicks, but you're wrong. The fact that you're both sex workers is merely incidental, and it would be an unjust slur upon your kind if I were to suggest that you were the foulest members of our germ-racked population. There are bankers who play Monopoly with public cash and chuckle mirthlessly whenever they lose. Priests who proclaim purity and abstinence while in secret seducing the youngest members of their flock. There are bigots who spread distrust and disgust for those moving to our country in search of a better life. And then there are those who actually do the migrating, fleeing war-torn nations only to cheat our system and proliferate the ill-judged morals of their former homes. Some of the filthiest offenders are criminals, yes, but they're only the most obvious. What of the liars, the cheats and the philanderers, the merciless capitalists, the violent communists, the tax-boosting politicians and the abusive bosses? Our society is pestilent, fetid. They all bathe in moral excrement, and then have the audacity to point their filth-smeared fingers at someone else, crying, "Them! It's them who are to blame!" I lower my tone. I'm just as corrupt as the rest of you, but to do good, one must sometimes get one's hands dirty. And the saddest truth? Even my selfless efforts to remove a sprinkling of the stains that cover us all will amount to nothing more than a vain gesture, a bar of soap tossed into a swamp. I return to the bedroom and immediately hear the rent boy whispering something in haste to the hall. No matter. Inside my briefcase, behind the bottles and beneath the velvet lining, is a dainty Colt 22. I purchased it from an inner-city gun dealer before offering him a sedative-laden drink and scrubbing him clean with a wire brush. I slip on a pair of protective gloves, and in my right hand take the pistol, and in my left, the briefcase filled with wine bottles containing the strongest ammonias, bleaches, oven cleaners, acids, detergents, and polishes available. Cherry begins to cry when I return. Stallion Boy simply watches me implacably. Oh, don't be bitter, Stallion Boy. We aren't to blame for the things we do. It's life itself that makes us so unsanitary. I smile pityingly at this pair of living germs, a caretaker readying himself to perform a distasteful clean-up routine. Then I take the respirator mask from my pocket and raise it to my face. Hours later, the bubbles are red and brown, and through my mask the bathroom smells like a disinfected hospital. With one weak, scorched arm hanging over the tub's edge, and his chin perched upon it, Stallion Boy coughs. His eyes are closed, and the blistered skin of his cheeks appears thin and taut. Although Stallion Boy clings on, poor little Cherry Pie had submitted to the bleach I'd squeezed into her eyes and throat about an hour ago. She died vomiting blood, but her red bile had splashed harmlessly into the bath bubbles before she had sunken into the depths. No mess. Stallion Boy can't hold on for much longer. The mildew cleaner, the oven scrub fluid, and the muriatic acid have taken their toll on his silk-smooth skin and rasping lungs. I consider applying something new, perhaps some nitrobenzene-based furniture polish, but there's no point adding another cocktail to the mix if he's already spotless. Following all this excitement, I realise that my delicious ciabatta is about to pass through me. I sit down onto the toilet without shame, watching Stallion Boy claw blindly at his own face, and my thoughts return to the sickening pervert I met this morning at the station. "You know, Stallion Boy," I say, casually, my voice muted by the respirator mask, "you've convinced me that I need to find that cursed shit swallower and present him my services." My stomach gurgles like a drain, the thrill of the day's events no doubt having liquefied my usually solid loaves. From the tub, Stallion Boy stops tearing at his cheeks. His chemical-flayed head turns towards me, toppling sideways to rest at an angle, cheek to porcelain. As I watch, his eyelids flicker open and reveal whites that have turned blood red, but irises that remain strikingly green. I tell him, "I'm certain that a man of Krebs' tastes would benefit enormously from all I have to offer, don't you think?" Stallion Boy's chin jitters. He opens his mouth and in a ragged, asthmatic gasp asks, "Who?" Oh dearie me. All this deep cleaning really has taken away the poor lad's spark. The fellow from the toilets, Kreb. A flatulent sound like a suppressed laugh wheezes from him, and then his ruined eyes roll sideways, and he dies. Oh well. The fun had to end at some point, and in death Stallion Boy almost appears to be smiling. I strain slightly, trying to push out my digested lunch quickly so that I can pack up and leave. David, the hotel manager, has a dedicated team of local artistes who, for an exorbitant fee, will clean up scenes like this one so effectively that it will be as if it had never occurred. It seems as though my little ciabatta wants to stay in the warmth rather than the unforgiving cold of the toilet bowl. I tense once again, but it's staying stubbornly put. Perhaps I should let it brew a while longer and make myself scarce. I reach down to my ankles and take my creased slacks by the waistband, but before I can lift them, a sudden indigestive pang jabs my guts. I'll stay put for the moment. I don't want any embarrassing accidents on the journey home. I strain harder this time, grunting with the effort, and to my concern, the pain spreads across my lower torso. As I clench my muscles, I feel something ease a path towards my exit hole, something that flexes. Oh, cripes. Is it a parasite? A worm grown so engorged by the food in my digestive tract that when it moves I can feel the shudder of its progress. The pain comes again, a burning expansion of my lower intestine. When it breaches the puckered door from inside, the pain is accompanied by a curious tickling as something traces the outer edges of my anus. Panicking, I tear off some tissue, reach down and touch something that should be a turd, but isn't. When I wrap the tissue around the thing that has started to escape me, it flails, its body comprised of 3 groping segments. Suddenly, agony shears through me and another near-identical form emerges. Then a third and a fourth comes, all in a row, and the knife-sharp pain in my rectum seems to peak. The quartet of worms must be poking 3 inches from my derriere, writhing in unison, and when a fifth arrives at a different angle, I drop from the toilet to the floor with my hands and face pressed against the tiles. More knuckled worms protrude an inch or 2 from my exit hole. When they spread open, the true torment begins, and I howl incomprehensibly as something opens me from inside. With tears streaming from my eyes, I reach down again. An impossible realization hits me. It isn't worms that are issuing from my poor Nipsey, it's fingers. Through the barbed wire trauma of my shrieking nerves, I hear a voice. I glare up at Stallion Boy, assuming that he's found some supernatural ability to gloat. He remains dead, eyes glazed and charred lips still shaped by that post-mortem smirk. The voice comes again, and at last I understand the irrational atrocity that has befallen me. From between my arse cheeks, at the epicenter of my agony, I hear,
I bloody knew your Choc would be the best. Didn't I tell you?
I gaze down at my trousers enwrapping my ankles, my bare legs and the brown and red coated hands that are reaching farther into the day, their filthy nails scraping the smooth ceramic tiles, straining for purchase. The stench of my own insides plumes upwards as in one singular thrust the hands become 2 bare and bloody arms. Wild, scatter-clumped hair appears between my pale thighs amidst the crackling of my overwrought muscles. Surely such shredding agony must deliver me to unconsciousness.
Bloody delicious.
Kreb the shit demon chuckles, now dragging its face out from my tattered rear between its pinched upper arms. There's a tearing sound as its shoulders come next, blood-clogged and crap-smeared and reeking of me, then the torso, then the hips, and finally, birthed from some impossible portal, the legs. Everything blurs as I bleed out across the slaughterhouse floor, but I gaze woozily down, seeing roped intestines and dark organs pulsing from my body's poop-scented parody of a cesarean section. Kreb leers idiotically, his face a mashed wedding cake of smeared shit and blood.
You shouldn't have flushed, pal.
He grins.
But it's okay. I've enjoyed yours, so it's only fair that I let you try some of mine.
Something black and final looms behind me as he slides down his jeans.
Krebs the name. Call 1, 2, 3.
He drools, bending over and unleashing an avalanche of chocolate over me.
Take a dump, and there I'll be.
Chilling tales for dark nights.
Want to make sure you never miss a Chilling Tales for Dark Nights video again? Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to turn on notifications.